Sage Wanderer here, coming at you from my shotgun shack in the Texas Outback. So this may be one of the more important videos I've ever produced. It's going to definitely be controversial. And it's because of the topic. It's a topic that I rarely, if ever, talk about. And the topic is abortion. So if you're triggered by this topic, for whatever reason, if it disturbs you, if you're disturbed by the graphic description of some of the things that are going on, then you should probably tune out. So now that you've been warned, I'll get on with the video. Now, if some of you that really follow me and really know me understand my stance on abortion. And I don't talk about it much, and one of the main reasons is it's emotionally disturbing to me. It's physically draining to me to talk about it. It's just because it's just so awful. And the thing is that I've been accused of being pro-abortion. I am not, nor have I ever been pro-abortion. I've never paid for an abortion, and I am absolutely positively anti-abortion. Now, having said that, that's not the argument for me. That's not the political argument, is not whether or not I think abortion is bad. And that shouldn't be the sole reason why you are pro-life. You should be pro-life because you have a relatable, articulatable argument of a legal and or political nature that makes sense to people and that you're trying to change opinions, okay? You should not be pro-life just because, I think I got a bug on my glasses, I do. You shouldn't be pro-life just because abortion is bad, all right? Because there's a bigger topic than this. And I got into this. I was attacked on my live stream and forced to talk about this. The live stream was one I did from the Salem, Oregon Capitol. And, you know, somebody hijacked the live stream and started attacking me because they, you know, had heard me say in the past that I was politically pro-choice. And, you know, my argument up until now, the argument I've always made since I became pro-choice, was that I think abortion is awful. I think that people are committing a sin when they're committing abortion. I believe in the eyes of God, abortion is murder. But here's the problem I have with telling a woman what they can do with their body. Because if you tell a woman what she can do with her body, then you can tell me what I can do with my body. And you can tell my children what I have to permit the state to do to them and their bodies. You understand that the same argument that you make for a pro-life, anti-abortion stance is the same argument that the state uses to force you to take your vaccinations and to force you to take your medicine and to force you to go and have a prostate exam if you don't want one. That the people, the authoritative medical industry says you don't have a right to your body, and we have a right to tell you what to do with your body for the betterment of society. Because it's society's, it's for the greater good, right? That you have to give up your personal rights to your own body. You understand, this is the argument they currently and continuously make, right? And we're against that as conservatives, right? But if we make the same exact argument that, well, it's murder, abortion is murder, and the baby has rights. Here's the problem with that. This is going on inside a woman's belly. You can't get more personal than talking about something that's literally going on inside of your own belly. Right? So that's been my argument. And if you're keyboard warrioring it out there and you're fixing to hammer me over my pro-choice decisions, it's a constitutional decision, not a moral one for me. That I can separate God's law and God's morality from what is best to run a country made up of a lot of people who aren't Christians and a lot of people who are Christians. And that the Constitution, as it was framed, has to be the ultimate. It has to be the ultimate protection for us. Really, it's all we got as Americans. One of the things that I've learned from discussing topics like gun control and freedom of speech, basic human rights, when I've discussed these with people from other countries like Canada, I recently had a discussion with some Canadians, and people from Australia or Great Britain, and they will say, well, Sage, the thing that you guys have that we don't have is a constitution. And, we Americans take for granted the fact that this Constitution is the most powerful letter of the law. And every other law has got to fall under the control or under the umbrella of the Constitution. It's all got to rhyme. If it don't rhyme, your argument is moot. And that's the problem with being pro-life. is that being pro-life is at odds with the Constitution, because it says the state has the right to tell you what's going on inside your body. It can dictate everything about your life, even what goes on in your own belly. And I have a problem with the state having that much power. Now, having said that, I'm making this video to announce that I'm changing my stance from pro-choice. That I think the founding fathers would be pro-choice, okay, if abortion were what they sell it to be. So they'll, people that are pro-abortion will tell you, look, this is just for people who are trying to control the population and trying to control family planning. They made a mistake. They messed up the rhythm method. They got their math wrong. They forgot to take the pill. They forgot to take the morning after pill and whatever. And now, or they didn't know they were pregnant. It was, it was it was a virgin birth. I don't know how I got pregnant. I just got pregnant. I didn't know I was pregnant. And that's what it's for, and that it's for catching it early, so you're just scraping out cells. There's no real baby there. It's just a fetus. This is what they say. And if that were the truth, I could probably still hold my nose and continue to be pro-choice on the matter of the Constitution. Now, having said that, what has come to mind is that what I've figured out, what's been exposed recently, we'll say it that way, is what is really going on in abortion. Abortion has stopped being that thing that everyone fought for, that all the women fought for their right to terminate a pregnancy, an accidental pregnancy. You see, now it's become a for-profit business, and a big business. Because guess what? Those little fetuses aren't fetuses. They are babies, because they can abort them and then take their little livers out and put them in some recovered alcoholic's liver, right? And now he gets a new chance at life. Seems like a good thing, right? And maybe it would be if it wasn't for the fact of the way they're doing it. I mean, I hate to say this, but it's come out and it's been proven that AJ was right. They're keeping babies alive and they're selling their body parts. This is what abortion has become. This is why they're fighting for abortion and later term abortions, because these Dr. Frankensteins, these Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, freaking Doctor of Island of Dr. Moreau, these Dr. Moreaus are trying to pass these laws so they can have more access to these human bodies. And they're using them for research, and they're using them for transplants, and companies and individuals will pay big money. It's also why our people in America won't really go after China, because China is taking the body parts from living prisoners, which are really just they're a religious minority. And the reason they've targeted them is because these people believe in living a clean life. They don't drink, they don't smoke, they don't do drugs. They eat healthy. They're vegetarians, and so their organs are highly sought after. And so the Chinese government has targeted these people as political dissidents for the sole purpose of harvesting their organs. And this is why that big corporations and the very rich of the world. I kind of keep using the word globe. It makes all the flat earthers mad. I can tell you right now, the Earth's not flat. At least it's bumpy, because I can see bumps. But around the world, these rich people and these powerful, morally bankrupt people have, they're protecting China for this reason, really. Now there's a lot more to it, and I won't get into the political aspects of this. But the bottom line is, abortion in America in particular has become about organs and tissue and stem cells and fetal tissue that they're using in all kinds of things. And there's even rumors that they're using this in food enhancing chemicals that they're putting in our food, making cannibals, making baby eaters out of all of us. I'm not even sure if that's true, honestly. I heard it. I can't prove it one way or the other. I've thought about doing a coffee talk on it, but I can't find enough information. But the bottom line is, they admit that the whole purpose for late-term abortions is so that they can get these more mature, more fully developed human bodies, babies, that they can use then in these medical experiments. Now, I believe the founding fathers, like I said earlier, would have been pro-choice if abortion were simply the oops, I made a mistake. If it were just the next step beyond the morning after pill, then that's a woman's right. It's her body. And I think what I told you, I've changed my opinion. I'm no longer pro-choice, but I'm also no longer traditionally pro-life either, because I think you guys are trying to legislate morality. I think you're trying to take what is a sinful, selfish act and make the government try to control it. And I just don't know that that works. And some of you are going to argue with me and say, oh, well, then murder should just be legal. Okay, you're reducing to the ridiculous, right? It doesn't really make your point. It just makes you seem small-minded. So let's talk about the thing we're talking about and not have a kitchen sink argument where you throw everything at me but the kitchen sink. Let's stay on point here. But the bottom line is, it is a woman's right to choose. However, what is happening in the medical field, that's what we can regulate. We can regulate what doctors do. What doctors do and how they perform their services in the public sphere is absolutely controllable. It's mandatable. It's you can mandate them to behave a certain way. You can regulate them. That's the word I'm looking for. Regulate them, and they are heavily regulated. So we should regulate abortion. We should regulate abortion. We should make, right now, outlaw all use of baby parts in medical experiments or for transplants right now. There should be a ban on the use of human tissue for anything like that, unless it's from the cadaver of a person who has the power and the ability of, and will and mental capacity to donate their body to science. And I believe we should regulate this, that we should treat these aborted infants as though they were humans, and they should be disposed of the same way you would dispose of a human who died in your care. Okay? So that means you bury them. That means you have a death certificate. I think this absolutely has to be done. I think it would be, if their attitude, if their opinion, if the feminists are trying to protect abortion and a woman's right to choose whether she has a baby or not, then this fits in that. It doesn't affect her right to choose whether she has a baby or not. Then I'm also in favor of the heartbeat law. That's where the line should be drawn. If it's got a heartbeat, it's a human. I wouldn't be against, as a compromise, making it a face law. If it has a face, it's a human. Okay? If you can look at it and say, that's a baby's head and face. I see eyes, nose, mouth, and ears. All right? Anything after that, that's absolutely got to be murder. It's really just got to be murder. I don't care if it's happening inside a woman's belly. Here's the thing. If you could extract the baby through emergency C-section and the baby had a 50-50 chance of survival, right? If they can scientifically at that age survive, then, and you perform an abortion on a baby that could otherwise survive, that is murder. So the abortionists, the hospitals, the doctors, this organ harvesting cult has got to be dealt with. Now I'll tell you another thing. Oops, I made a mistake and I had to have abortion once. I can understand that. Oops, I made a mistake and I had to have abortion twice. Okay, everybody deserves a second chance and maybe a third chance. With 3 strikes and you're out. These people that have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 abortions, 16 abortions. There are people out there that have had double-digit abortions and they're still having them. Okay, that is evil. That is evil. It's beyond you being irresponsible or people that have that many abortions should be forced sterilized. Now, having said that, you're going to go, Sage, that's completely tyrannical. You've gone off the deep end. You're authoritative. You're being authoritarian. This is why I think, in conjunction with regulating how these babies' bodies are handled after they're aborted and what is done with them, that right there will remove most of the incentive from the medical community to be pushing for abortion. That they'll quit spending their money pushing on it if they can't profit from it anymore. You understand? They're profiting from the baby parts. They are literally keeping babies alive that are being aborted so they can sell their body parts. They're keeping them comfortable, and they even have comfort rooms where they can go there and die in peace, right? And some of them keep them alive just to take them to the place where the organ is going to be used, and then they carve them up, live human babies. The founding fathers who wrote our Constitution could not have imagined in their wildest dreams this kind of thing occurring in society, in polite Western society, much less in the United States of America. That this thing of carving these babies up for science is criminal, and it should be treated that way. I still have to be in favor of a woman's right to choose, because the Constitution says what happens inside of her own body is her business. But just like euthanasia, when you bring in a third party, I guess in this case it would be a third party because you got the mom, the baby, and now a doctor. The third party can be heavily regulated. In fact, one could argue that constitutionally she has the right to an abortion, but she doesn't have the right to a medical abortion. Because we have the right to tell a medical doctor, you can't take another human life like that. So that's one way to argue it. Here's the bottom line, though. The Supreme Court spoke on this in Roe versus Wade. I don't know that the Supreme Court, if they see this issue again, they might regulate late-term abortion through, and I think are siding in that way, the more conservative the court's being. But at the same time, the Constitution really is so, it's the ultimate law of the land. So the argument for pro-lifers is the same argument for people who want to ban all guns. I hate to say this, if you want to ban all guns, if you want to ban all abortions, right, I think your only constitutionally viable option, right, to do it peacefully and to not be draconian or authoritarian, the only way to do it is to amend the Constitution. If you want to take away assault weapons, you're going to need a constitutional amendment, because the Second Amendment is going to keep getting interpreted the way it was intended, that we have the absolute right to keep and bear arms. I honestly believe the 1968 ban on machine guns was unconstitutional. You see, I'm a constitutionalist. And if that means you got the right to own a machine gun, you got the right to kill your baby, if it's still inside your belly, that's true constitutionalism. It is what it is. The founding fathers weren't messing around, man. They gave us a document that guarantees our absolute and total freedom, as long as it doesn't infringe on yours. And the argument with abortion is, of course, the baby has rights too. But does it? Could it survive without its mother? Could it constitute its own rights and walk off? No, it can't. It's at the mother's, and no one else can help the baby if the baby's inside of her, if it can survive outside the mother's womb. Scientifically, when that happens, 3-4 months into pregnancy, preemie babies, 3, 4, 5 months old, they absolutely survive all the time. So, late-term abortion, I think we don't have to amend the Constitution to heavily regulate abortion, but to completely outlaw it, we have to have an amendment to the Constitution. And I'm in favor of amending the Constitution to prohibit abortion in America past the first trimester. Because after that point, it's got a heartbeat, it's a baby, it's got a face, it can feel pain, it has a soul, it's a human. And right now, we are murdering humans to save the lives of other humans. We are murdering humans to experiment on how we can make more money, making better products. There's a death cult in this country. Now I'm going to tell you the worst part of it. And if you don't want to hear something really disgusting, you should probably tune out right now. But there's a new fetish called breeding. It's a breeding fetish. And it's where couples intentionally get pregnant. They do all the things that couples do. Oh, you have such a glow, and oh, it makes your hormones different, and oh, look, it's making your breasts look bigger. And they have all the things. I remember when my wife was pregnant, I kind of dug it. I think we had more sex when she was pregnant. I'm sorry, I warned you. It's adult talk here. Than we did before, and we were still young, it was just like something about the gloriousness of womanhood, that the fact that there was a life growing inside of her was just, I don't know, it triggered something male in me, something, and it was sensuous. It was It was loving. It was wonderful. But there's this death cult of people that want that feeling. They want that gratification without all the bad stuff that goes along with it. Like, the travails of childbirth, taking care of babies, changing diapers in the middle of the night, school shopping, parent-teacher conferences, teaching them how to wipe their butt, how to tie their shoes, how to drive a car, sending them off to college and paying for it. They're going to skip all of that so they can have this breeding experience, and then they terminate the baby as late as legally possible. And they do it again! And they do it again! And they do it again! This thing I'm talking about is really the #1 reason why I am now pro-life. And I want to see a constitutional amendment ending the possibility of this kind of practice. And I think these people are serial murderers, they're serial killers, and they should be taken to prison, tried, and then hung by their neck until dead. God save our republic.